On Vin Scully bobblehead giveaway night. We welcome it back to Dodger Stadium, 7-1. Diamondbacks in front. The Vin bobblehead is portraying him as he was when he debuted in 1950. First of his 67 years as the voice of the Dodgers, the voice of baseball. Greatest that ever did it, greatest there ever will be. Strike on Gabriel Moreno. Leading off this inning for the Diamondbacks, Tawa and Smith to follow. It was the summer before that he first met Red Barber. He was at CBS Radio in New York just doing a networking meeting. He had a meeting with the news guy there and ran into Red, introduced himself, knew that he wanted to do sports. Talked to Red a little bit. Red said, well, leave me your info, kid, not thinking he'd ever need to call him. But then a couple of months after that, he needed a guy to fill in on college football. And so Vin got the call to go to a Boston University game against Maryland that was at Fenway Park. Vin's thinking, this is the big time college football. I bet I'm going to have this nice warm booth. I'm going to go in just my sweater, probably something like that. Well, he gets there and finds out, no, kid, you're on the roof of the press box at Fenway Park. So he goes up to the roof, and the sun goes down, and he says he's fighting off frostbite at this point in his sweater with a microphone, a little table, and 50 yards of cable for him to walk up and down the roof to look down at the field and call the game, walk with the action. And the night finishes, and he's thinking, I've blown my shot. But Red Barber gets a call a few days after that, apologizing for the conditions that his young announcer was put in. And he's thinking, man, that kid went out there and did that and didn't say a word about it, didn't complain a word about it. I'm going to use him again. And so when he needed somebody to do Harvard Yale the next week, Vin got the call again. And the following year, when Ernie Harwell decided to leave the Dodgers to go to the New York Giants, guess who got the call? It was Vin Scully. Ernie Harwell, a Hall of Fame announcer himself, said that was his greatest contribution to baseball. Vacating the seat for Vin to come take it.
Vin was a one-of-a-kind gentleman. Ernie Harwell was the voice of my childhood because I lived in Detroit. And when the Tigers won it all in '68, it was Ernie Harwell's voice that was on it. He and Ray Lane.
It was actually the second time that Vin had stepped in for Ernie Harwell because it was Ernie that got bumped up to a higher game on CBS College Football that opened the spot for Vin to get that first chance with CBS Radio. 3 balls and 2 strikes on Gabriel Moreno. 10 pitch at bat going here.
You know, there are so many things for a big leaguer. The first of, your first baseball card, your first bat, maybe where your signature's on it. Walking into the locker room and seeing your uniform with your name on it, hanging at your locker, what is going to become your locker. And through the years with Vin, guys would tell him, one of my first is when you would announce my name. And that just made guys feel like they had arrived, just like their bat or their baseball card or their locker.
Man, oh man. 13 pitch coming to Moreno.
But it's very nice of him to have 13 pitches when you're talking about Vin.
That's true. I think this may be Vin's work right here.
Yeah.
Joe wants to spin a yarn. Why don't we let him? How about a 14 pitch?
Another chapter.
It began for Vin Saturday afternoons as a kid listening to college football. They had a radio that stood on 4 legs, and he would sit under the radio. He'd get a box of crackers and spend all afternoon sitting under that radio, he says, feeling the crowd. He was just enamored by the sound of the crowd. Right time, right place in a couple ways. He was born in 1927 as radio started to blow up in the 1930s. And he was born in the Bronx. He was born in New York, where there were 3 baseball teams with Hall of Fame announcers on all 3 teams. And Vin Scully came out of all that. marathon continues. It was right time, right place again when he came to Los Angeles, because he had a city full of people that wanted to learn about the game. And Vin was the guy that taught him. They'd come to the games, they'd bring this fancy new invention, the transistor radio. And there were so many of them in the crowd that when Vin would tell a joke on the radio, you'd hear the whole crowd at the stadium laugh. Hook to the right field corner. Teoscar Hernandez over to make the grab. Longest plate appearance in the majors this year. 16 pitches.
Teoscar had one down there in the corner, but this one wasn't as close. That looked like it could have been fair. Landed. He won that battle, or we should say war, as long as it was.
Strike one on Tawa. Here the other way that it was right place, right time for Vin here in Los Angeles. All the road games, with the exceptions of the ones that were in San Francisco. Obviously out east. That was rush hour time here in Los Angeles, the busiest traffic city in the world. And so folks were captive in their cars, listening to those games, falling in love with the Dodgers and with baseball and with Vin Scully. 2 up and 2 down in the 5th. Right time, right place for him in a few ways, and right time, right place for any of us that were fortunate enough to be here when he was doing it.
When you'd walk onto the team bus, Tommy Lasorda would be on the left in the very front row, and Vin Scully would be on the right in the very front row. And then everybody filled in behind that. The players started all the way in the back and would work their way forward. The younger guys would be a little bit more forward. The veteran players are all the way in the back. So you are walking by like Hall of Famers with Tommy on one side, Vinny on the other, Jaime Jarrín in row 2, Don Drysdale in row 3. You just unbelievable pedigree of classy, amazing people just to walk onto a team bus.
Smith lines the ball to right field, and a 2-out hit for Pavin Smith. So all 9 Diamondbacks have now reached tonight.
Shortstop, Geraldo Perdomo.
7-1 ball game. Geraldo Perdomo climbs in. Switch hitter bats left-handed against Landon Knack. Sacrifice fly his first time, and then a walk. Flies the first one that he sees into center field for Kim, who's got the backdrop of the black night sky this time. Makes the grab to end the top of the 5th. Vin Scully, greatest ever to do it. 75 years since he began his 67-year run.